All right, Bracken. You gonna do my woo-woos for me? Woo, 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 woo. Everyone talks about this. So this is one thing I wanted to discuss this morning. Is all about the difference between Huskies and why they talk so much and other dogs don't. Is there a difference? And technically, everything everyone knows, I have to keep moving back because they want to be near me. So excuse me, I have to keep stepping back. So that is Bella. You don't see much of her. She's my old girl. She's my old girl from my shepherd things. She's got some skin issues and some things like shepherds have. There's constantly something with her ears and that. I can't do shepherds anymore. I love her, but it's constantly something. So my other dogs, never anything. Her, constant. But let's get back to the woo-woos. So everyone wants to, so I've had lots of discussions. Will the Anubis talk like a husky? That is my hope. There's reasons. There's a specific gene that, and again, I am of the opinion, having had lots of experience with huskies, they're extremely intelligent. The idea that they're not intelligent enough to do obedience, no, they're intelligent enough to give you a giant F you. You're like, sit. They're like, why? It's not like I don't know how. When a husky says, you say sit, and they're like, I might get around to it. They're not because they're dumb. I find it amusing when people say it's because a husky's dumb. It's because they won't take orders. No, it's because they don't really care. They're some of the most intelligent dogs. You know what it takes to do sledding and to understand terrain and to understand all kinds of the things that they need to figure out. Huskies are one of the most intelligent breeds, especially if you've spent time with them. You know this. And a bunch of trainers that expect a dog to obey on command as the idea of intelligence rate them as low because, oh, well, you won't be my little biatch. Let's do the extended outward term. Look, Huskies are very intelligent. This guy right here, he talks to me with his eyes, with his motions, with his body language. If he wants something, he comes over, lays his head on me. He'll nudge his head. He'll look right at whatever he wants. His intelligence level is remarkable, right? He's mostly husky. He's 3/4 husky. A lot of people ask about this guy, and he's 1/4 shepherd, okay? And he's my woo-wooer. Now, his mom is a woo-wooer. They're actually true talkers, not just howlers. Now, their dad, Levi, he's the full husky. He is not so much. He has a little bit of the woo-woos. And you know what, and if you've had a husky, you know what I'm talking about. So a lot of this will be for some husky owners or people who like the huskies on there. They do something different. It's not like another dog that's whining or yipping at you. They're not going, woo, woo, woo. My sweet little Tootsie Pop. My sweet little Tootsie Pop. There's a little chip with the little girl. We have, because Delpinium has two of the small dog genes, one of the same genes that she has plus an extra one. And every single one of the dogs here carries a gene to allow that small dog to show. I might have a bunch of smaller versions this time around for anybody who's interested. But the talking gene is something no one has found yet. Now, there's quite a few different people. They just haven't had enough funding for it. I'm not rich. Everybody thinks I'm doing this. Tons of people are like, oh, you must have tons of money. No, I don't have tons of money. I manage my money very carefully. And I don't buy coffees at Starbucks. I don't have a fancy car. In fact, I'm one of these people that drives an old car and doesn't have car payments because I don't like them. So I I'm very frugal. And so this is my passion project. And I spend a little bit of extra and a little bit I can manage onto that. Everyone's like, should you do Patreon? I could, yeah, sure. If I had some financial help or backing, of course I would do more. Of course things would move faster. But I have what I have. I would love to have my own DNA research set up so I could research this myself because things like this gene, no one has the money behind it to look for it. Some of these companies, they have some money behind certain genes and it's worth finding it, but there's very little. And so there is a gene, just like in humans, that allows us to talk. There's a gene that makes huskies more susceptible to being able to talk, to vocalize. And this to vocalize different, to go outside the normal whines, howls, or barks, right? Because that's the typical language of an average dog. An average dog can whine, they can howl, and they can bark. They don't, and there's some, cries of pain, little things like that in between. But as far as language goes, right? Huskies, proven, have a huge vocabulary. A huge vocabulary. And there's a specific gene in their brain, we know, that's allowing that. We just don't know what gene inside a husky allows for that talking. It's going to take some time since, like the other genes I have, I can track them. I can just do a test and I can track for that gene and I can make sure I'm doubling up on that gene, so I'm making sure I'm passing that gene on. From now with the husky, woo woo woo, which we call it the woo woo, you know, we can call it the woo woo gene for now. They have a right, you know, you've heard your talking. They have this huge vocabulary area. They can reach highs and lows and have expression and tone. And you go ahead and find another breed that can do that. It's the gene. So yes, what I'm trying to do is locate. So with all of my dogs, I mark all of the behaviors. So here's another one. I know this is going to make some people out there very unhappy, but do you look at his toenails there? Those are very nice. Just maybe tiny bit longer than the perfect toenail from a groomer would look. Those toenails have never, ever been clipped. Ever. Because that's another gene that we've been looking at exists. Some dogs, these shepherds, their toenails will grow until it's just grotesque. Why do some dogs not? Let's do another one. Look at those toenails. Again, a tiny bit longer than a groomer would enjoy, but they've never been clipped, ever. That is where they stay all the time. They don't get longer, they don't get shorter. Perfect toenails for a dog. I think she has perfect grip whenever she needs it, not too long. Now, that's not just a Malinois trait, because my other Malinois, Delpinium, I can take you over and show her. Hers are way too long. But I've had to let them grow naturally to see who carries this gene. So I don't know what the gene is. I don't know how to identify the gene, but he carries a gene that keeps his toenails reasonable without work. That's the way they should be. How do you think a wolf in the wild would survive if their toenails just got too long like a dog's? Everybody's like, well, they break off as they run. Well, that can't be totally true. Now, there's another thing that some dogs do. They will chew their own toenails off, which is something that the white wolves will do in the wild. They'll actually bite their own toenails to keep them trimmed. A lot of people don't realize that. But actually, what happens is in general, most wolves have this gene. It is my toenails stay the right length gene. They don't grow too long. They grow long enough to be what I need. Again, not one time. He is almost 3 years old. He has never had a toenail clipping. He doesn't need it. His genes say he doesn't need it. He carries a woo-woo gene. He carries this boy right here. He's beautiful. He's athletic. He's amazing. He's intelligent. He carries tons of genes that I want to make sure pass on. And his brother, Lav, we've met. He does a tiny bit of woo-woo. You know, he can do it. He has the gene for it, right? Because I've heard him do it. He just doesn't have the super interest. So that is one thing that's been different. Now, I'm pretty sure I have to admit, when she was younger, she did do it. So all the puppies in this litter, so all the puppies from Zharra, she's a litter that's coming up now, carried the woo-woo gene. Every single one of her puppies had woo-woo. She was bred with Levi. Now, she was bred with Centurion this time, and he's out of Levi. So we'll see how many of them carry that woo-woo gene. Now, if she has a double copy of the woo-woo, which she shouldn't, because, again, shepherds, though, can carry it without expressing it. Again, I don't know what to call it than that because no one's been able to identify it yet. We knew they had a gene for eyes. We knew they had a gene for this. We knew it. We all saw it as breeders. Everyone knew the Merle gene existed, right? We just never knew it existed. Like, we couldn't track it on a gene chart. You could track it in breeding. You knew not to breed two Merles together because some bad stuff happens. We just knew by the look, right? But we could tell by the way something looked that there was something affecting that went and then passed on to the next generation. So we had an understanding of genes before we actually did gene testing, all right? So this is the other thing. There's an understanding in people who do genetics that there is a woo-woo gene, right? There is a gene that Huskies carry that other breeds don't necessarily have that give them a community to communicate. There's a lot of talk about genetic modification. I'm not necessarily into that in our program at this time, though we may consider it. You may consider that unethical. I don't necessarily. They saved a couple babies recently with CRISPR. Do you think that's unethical? That's a gene therapy. So again, I find gene therapies to be very interesting and applicable in the right situation. If you could have a dog that could actually talk to you, would you? Talk to you. Very similar to the way we speak. There's some people who have talked about that Huskies have a very gene that might be very similar to the gene that we have discovered we believe leads to this communication, the way we speak as humans. It may be very related to that. Is there a way we can amplify that by breeding one woo-woo to another, and then amplify that gene to where we actually come up with a very close to speaking dog? Maybe. But if not, if you've had a husky, you know your husky is speaking to you. Woo, 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 do this. Woo, 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 do that. Woo, 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 woo. He's like, what are you wooing at me for? Because I want you to woo back. For one time, you woo every other moment of your life. And for this one video, you're going to give me no woos. Not one. That's okay. I don't mind. We can still look at your beautiful face and talk about the woo-woos. Now, she's half Malinois and half husky, right? Tootsie Pup is. She doesn't carry any of the speaking gene. But again, I've never really seen it in Levi. Levi's a full husky, so there's no assumption that all huskies even carry the woo-woo gene, right? That talking gene. And no one has ever focused on breeding for the talking gene, which means making sure to breed 2 huskies together just because they speak, and then take the puppies from that and breeding them together because they speak. Because we're tracking that now, we know every single one of the dogs in our program currently that speaks, well, that has woo-woo, right? We call it the untraceable, but it is a woo-woo gene. We have a little checkbox we have. Do they woo-woo? Blaviken has it. He has the check mark. He doesn't do it though, right? So we have what we call active and we have what we call available. So Blavi, his brother, is available. The woo-woo gene's there. He can do it when he feels like it, but he just doesn't have any real interest in it. It's not really in his nature. Him, active, though he's being just a stinker. He's doing it right now. Just the minute I stop filming, he will start woo-wooing. He's just being a brat. They've all learned something about the camera, right? Especially now that I play the videos back and then they hear themselves back. Yeah, and some of them are much smarter than others. He knows I'm doing something, and he's heard himself back because I've done a couple videos trying to get him to woo-woo, but it's never worked out completely, so I haven't posted them yet. And but I've played them back, and there's always been something wrong with them. And then he's heard himself, so he's like, I don't know. I woo-woo, she's gonna woo-woo back at me. He's gorgeous, though. So this guy right here is one of my foundations for that woo-woo gene. Now he's going to be bred to Delpinium. That missed this time, though who knows? Again, we'll DNA test. Maybe he's one of the parents, though on my video, I don't see him as necessarily one of the humpers, but we'll see. But I eventually was planning to breed him to Delpinium, the very black sable-looking Malinois that I have. And I want to track who has the whatever, what we call the woo-woo gene. I would love to have a lab. So if I was to ever set up a Patreon or any of those things, it would really just to finance the research for me. That is my passion. I would love to do that, and I really can't afford to do all those DNA. I have to depend on other labs to do my DNA testing and do this, and it costs money. So, of course, I could spend that money on a lab of my own. So maybe that's the Patreon I'll set up. If you want to see more research into those types of genes, because they're not going to do it. There's no money behind it. You have to have money behind their research. He's gorgeous, and he's not going to woo-woo once. But we still got to talk about woo-wooing, even though we didn't get to hear any of it. Sorry about that. But he's just being a stinker this morning. And I only have so much time because, again, I have 2 females about to pop, and those girls are going to probably have babies the same night, just to make my life as difficult as possible. No, Delpinium still has not had puppies yet. We have still been scrambling to get ready. We have temperature control in that. So, again, I have an office here. So this is where we all work most of the time because all the other houses are torn apart. And there's a little loft in there for sleeping I never get to use because I get to sleep in my recliner. This is the house we're remodeling. This little house. It's a tiny house. So there was nothing in it. It's ready to be gutted, but now it has to be a puppy house. I can't gut in front of it at least. And then I have my toy hauler RV. So we have puppies here for safety ranges, because I work here and all of us are in here. And this is just not enough. There's no way I could do the puppies in this. There's just not enough. This is only a 10 by 12 space, right? I need more room to work around them and have everything they need. So yay for us. Yeah, so we are still on puppy watch. We are actively waiting for them. They both look huge. And I've got a different yard I'm putting together for the 2 mamas so that they will have a full sterile yard. Again, that way if these guys go with me somewhere, they can't track anything back to them. So their yard will be bleached, and it'll be bleached like every couple days, especially once they're outside, so they can't track anything in, and then once the puppies are there. So, oh, yay. So, all right. So we got to see a little bit of Kailea this morning, a little bit of Tootsie. And then my woo-woo that was not going to woo-woo this morning, of course. You got even one woo-woo for me? You got even one? You stinker bug. You stinker. You woo-woo any other time. All right, buddy. Okay, so yes, we do want the dogs. I do want them to speak. I am looking actively for this gene. Again, I have no company yet to partner with or no lab stuff of my own yet to do, but people were breeding for Merle genes and against Merle all these other genes long before we could see them in a DNA test. And kind of that's what you do by what you see. So any of the woo-wooers out of this guy will be bred to other woo-wooers, and they will be encouraged to speak, and that is what we'd like, yes. So that is a gene I find important. It's a gene I can't track. So maybe that's the time. Maybe I should do a Patreon, because that's again, I afford this. I don't expect anybody to indulge my what's for me, right? This is my thing, and I'm not trying to get anybody else to pay for my thing. But the gene thing, I might be very in a lab and a place to do all the testing for the dogs and stuff. That is something I would love to have some help to do. So I might set up something, and then I'll track a little thing and let you guys see what we purchase and the stuff that we do towards having an actual lab where we can do. So we do hearing tests, we do vision tests, we do all this. And half the time we moved. I can't find a vet. I would do a hearing test at 6 weeks on all my puppies. None of these puppies are going to get that because no one in this area does it. It's called a BAER. It's an OFA hearing test. It tests all their hearing to see the decibels that they add, if they have any limitations in their hearing, any oversensitivities, anything like that. I love to do that. Dental tests. Most of the people around here, I can't find a vet that does hardly any OFAs at all, even these simple ones. But you need a special machine, and it's not an expensive one, really, overall, to do it. If any of these vets, if I had the machine, they could do the test, because it has to be done by a vet. But they don't even have the machine, and they're not willing to invest in it. And so half the testing I want to do for my dogs, a lot of times I can't do it because no vet in the area does it. I move a little bit, and I'm kind of on the go kind of a person, and get to live my life a little bit free. Don't ever let people tell you dogs can't let you move. I move all the time with my dogs. I just make sure when we move that we're ready for them. But yeah, so that's the main thing I'd love to. I'd love to find that woo-woo gene, guys. I'd love to know what makes him, even though he's obviously not going to do it for this video. I just want to strangle the little stinker. You ever feel like this, like, I just want to go over and just wrap my arms around you and squeeze you. In a good way. Don't anybody get weird on me. If you can't tell, these children are spoiled rotten, okay? How many toys they have. Yeah, they look real intimidated by me. I can't get away from them half the time. So, yeah. I'm not real worried about anybody getting squoze too hard, but sometimes I wouldn't mind giving them a squeeze. I think about it, even though you could tell I never do it because they're spoiled. So yes, if I could find the woo-woo gene, I would, and I would breed specifically for that, and I would try to develop it even to be more refined so it could be more expressive. If you've had a husky, you know sometimes they are so close to talking to you. I mean, so close. Yeah, once we got him to talk, we might want to shut him up, and we might not be able to, but hey, you know what I mean? You gotta take the good with the bad. But I would love to refine those vocal skills, and it is a gene, and it's a gene that's so far that I can find from all the research I've done on other dogs. The husky's the only one that does that talking in that particular way and has that many vocal expressions available to them. All right, see you next time. Oh, we'll see you when the puppies are born.